All right, everybody. Thanks for joining Hospitality Workers and Job Seekers, and reveal to you here first the results of our 2023 applicant research. And so what we're going to be talking about is a profile of the modern hospitality worker and really attempting to answer the question, why are we all struggling to find and retain them now? So my hope for the next half hour or so that we spend together is that each of you can learn something that you can take into your operation and apply immediately to help you improve hiring and retention results. So thanks again for being here. My name is Adam Robinson. I am the co-founder and CEO here at Hireology. As many of you probably know, Hireology is a talent technology platform focused on the hospitality industry. We help hoteliers and their management teams with the tooling they need to run an effective hiring process and build their best possible team. And today we work with hundreds of hotels across the United States and thousands of businesses across the US. And we are leveraging that breadth in data and scale to bring you insights from our latest applicant research study. So let's jump right into that. I'd like to start out with a quick overview of today's market conditions. And before I jump into that, I want to state, if you've got questions or something you want to know more about, we're going to handle Q&A at the end. You can use your chat function inside of Zoom. Just post your question and we'll make sure that Katie from our team is moderating that. And at the end, we'll get to as many questions as we can. All right, so let's jump in. Today, I know it feels as though there are two completely different and in many ways conflicting job markets. On one hand, is the tech and professional service space. As we all have read consistently this year, many businesses in the white collar sectors are grappling with layoffs and hiring freezes due to the recession. Whether we actually had one or not, I think is still a source of debate. The recession everyone says is coming, and really the hangover from over hiring and cheap money during the pandemic. And this has left the number of active job seekers in white collar sectors outweighing the number of open jobs. And so we're actually seeing declining employment in white collar professional work, but that's not the world we live in, is it? Like with other industries that employ hourly essential workers, the hospitality sector, here we're facing a completely different reality. Hotels, resorts, restaurants, other hospitality businesses were forced to let go about 50% of staff over the course of the pandemic in aggregate. And now, of course, travel's picked up again. It is a near record high. And when COVID restrictions were lifted and as we got the vaccine, everybody needed to hire really quickly. But most of the workers who previously held these jobs had evaluated their situation and had either moved to other industries or were still sitting on the sidelines. And without a properly staffed team, of course, it's impossible to turn rooms, get them ready, meet guest expectations, fill our restaurants and bars with the staff to run all the service that we need. And the impact is on your bottom line. And all of that is to say, and preaching to the choir here, it is critical that hotels really find the right way to recruit, hire, and retain workers. Doing what we've done in the past just isn't going to get it done today. And I think we all here understand that. But workers in this sector really have the upper hand. And that's all about the supply-demand imbalance. And that's really what I want to start by focusing on. It means we all need to take the time to understand and figure out from the job seeker's perspective, from our workers' perspective today, from their view, what do they want? What do they need? And how can we design the hiring process and content in a way that meets their needs where they are? And we're going to tackle that in terms of job design, in terms of hiring process, and overall employee experience. So those are the three things we're going to cover today. So first, a bit about the methodology. That's exactly what we set out to do with our 2023 applicant research. This is a research we do annually and update this. We do this every year to better understand job seekers and their mentality and provide that as a service to our market, so we can all better support what needs to happen here, but within our hotels and for Hireology, how we can best support you as customers. So this year we surveyed in the surveys included a sampling of 400 hospitality applicants with questions we asked around the following three themes. Number one, job seeker expectations. When you are applying for a job and going through the hiring process, what do you expect to experience there? Second, when it comes to a job, what are you looking for? What are the things that you are looking for when you're selecting your position? And third, what is it about a role that keeps you loyal to the employer? So I'm going to share those results with you right now. We broke down the results into 6 different takeaways, which represent the primary characteristics of today's hospitality job seeker. So this is data, hot off the press. It's not Hireology saying it. It's the folks we're trying to talk to about work in this industry every single day, telling us how they're feeling and what they want. First and foremost, the headline here is that the data shows job seekers in this industry absolutely want to work. In fact, they're eager to work. We are way past the time where we were arguing about whether it paid more to stay home than to get to work. We're now in the place where folks are saying they want to work. The pool of available talent is going up, but so is demand for that talent. So it is easy to assume the problem is that people don't want to work, but I think that's yesterday's conversation. Those who are actively looking for work are not only ready to work, they're ready to move through the process very, very quickly. You're going to hear me harp on this many times during our time together here. They want to be interviewed and hired fast. And I think a large reason behind this is just the supply-demand imbalance in the market. I mean, we have far more jobs to fill than we have people looking to take those roles. And that's driving wage inflation, and it's really making things challenging for us. So we have near record demand contrasted with near record lack of supply, and together, we're all pulling our hair out. But today, I think most people can no longer afford to be on the sidelines. Pandemic era benefits have expired for the most part. People need to get back to work. Inflation's taking a big bite out of folks' paycheck, and real wages, inflation-adjusted wages in the hourly workforce is treading water, and if that, in some sectors are actually down. And so the workforce, people looking for work, that pool has grown just about every month this year. In fact, our research found that more than a third of respondents said they want to be interviewed, not just contacted by you, but actually interviewed within 48 hours of applying to your job. Okay, more than a third want to be reached out to within 48 hours of application, while 60% told us their expectation is that they're going to have an interview within 3 business days. So that means your team needs to be equipped to contact applicants almost immediately after they apply. I mean, meaningful contact, so you can find time to set that interview within that 2 to 3 day window that meets their expectations. I also want to note that we conducted this study in several different industries adjacent to hotels and hospitality, and this industry had significantly higher expectations for how fast they want to be interviewed. So in our market, our job seekers expect really fast response and really quick time to interview. And if we're not delivering that within a 2 to 3 day window, we are going to lose them to someone who's moving faster. And so therein is, my very first lesson. The fastest to the job seeker is winning right now. So let's talk about that and why that matters so much. Well, 57% of job seekers in the hospitality space admitted that they would likely ghost you if those expectations for timing weren't met. And I know this is something everybody here on this call has experienced. In other words, by simply waiting too long to reach out to them and schedule that first interview within that first 72 hours, you are missing out on a huge chunk of the available candidate pool, because they're likely taking jobs elsewhere at faster moving companies. So we're lamenting that folks are ghosting us, but it's not because they're bad people. They're ghosting us because we're interviewing them in 5 or 6 days and someone's already got to them and they're just opting out at the last minute. Another point of evidence to this argument that most job seekers are eager to get on payroll is that 67% of recent hospitality job seekers say they accepted the first offer they received. The first offer. 2/3 of job seekers in this industry accept the first offer. All right. They're not waiting around to compare offers or shop you against competition. If they're good with the job and they're good with you as an employer, they are taking it. 2/3 take the first offer. So I'll say that differently. If you're not the first offer, you've lost 2/3 of the market. And so there's the soundbite for whoever in senior leadership in your organization needs to hear it. 2/3 of job seekers are gone if you're not the first offer they get. Right. So this was another statistic where this industry really stood out. More than any other industry in our data, hotel and hospitality are far more likely to accept the first offer presented than in other sectors. Okay. So it is even more important for us as operators in this space to be first with the offer. When we're first, we win. When we're second or later, we win a far fewer percentage of the time. All right. Second point here, along with being able to work, today's top job seekers in this industry are really open-minded when it comes to where they're looking for jobs, the channels by which they source opportunity. They're not just relying on one single channel like job boards to search for jobs. They're not putting all of their search eggs into one or two baskets. So I want to take a closer look at this. First, let's take a look at what I mean by not putting all their eggs in one basket. 28% of survey respondents in the hospitality space said they applied to 16 or more jobs in their most recent job search. And a total of 41% said they applied to more than 11 jobs. And so what this means is that when someone applies to your job at your property or your management group, they also have about a dozen other additional opportunities in the works. So let's set this up. I've got 11 or more opportunities I'm looking at. 67% of the time, I'm going to pick the first one that makes me an offer in the organization where the job and the organization meets my needs. And so, boy, that's a lot of competition. I have to organize my entire hiring process and technology around being first with a good decision. And so if you're not able to give them what they want in terms of speed, they're casting such a wide net that they quickly just move on to other options. And it's exacerbating this labor shortage that we have in this industry. So again, I'll hammer it home again. Being first is the most important thing you can do. Note that I'm not saying being first and hire anyone who can fog a mirror. We have to be first with a good decision. We don't want to make bad hires. We have to make good hires and go fast. And that's what's changed over the last couple of years. Similarly, they're not going to rely on just one or two channels to search for jobs. They're going to see what they can get across a range of sources. Now, of course, by and large, the big job boards like our friends and partners at Indeed are the most commonly used source. But we asked people to check all that apply to them. And you'll see here from the mouths of job speakers here, you'll see that no other source really stands out as the second highest. They're Googling, they're going to social media, they're going directly to your career site, and they're asking their friends and acquaintances and professional contacts if they know anyone who's looking to hire. So in other words, after job boards, people are going everywhere to find the opportunity, and they're not really leaving any stone unturned. And so for you, what this means is your chances of reaching the best possible job seekers at the highest possible volume. The way you do that is by having a presence everywhere, right? It's not just job boards. Job boards are critical. You got to do it. They're the largest source of volume. But to get the rest of the market, you've got to be everywhere else in a way that allows you to respond and follow up very quickly. And then I wanted to make a note about referrals and employee referral programs because it's critically important as we think about getting a leg up in the market. While in the last question, only about 37% said they're actively networking with friends and peers when they look for a job, 83% said that if someone they know and trust vouches for the company, they're more likely to apply for and want to work for that employer. So this really speaks to the benefit of having a referral program internally that incentivizes your team to be your best recruiters and to reach out to their networks proactively rather than just waiting for candidates to contact them via networking. And so by and large, job seekers will apply to your jobs if someone they know encourages them to do so. But because they're not necessarily actively or proactively seeking these networking opportunities out themselves, what we can do is flip that script. It's important to put the onus on your existing team to reach out and start those conversations. And that really speaks to technology that allows them to do that easy. And so, of course, that's where a great referral program comes into play. Now, many of us have referral programs at our hotel. 90% of the time, what I learned from the VP of HR, head of talent acquisition, is that it's generally managed with spreadsheets and email, and it's really clunky. It's hard to get people to engage and to do it. It's hard to track payouts. It's just not scaling the way it should. And so that's where you can take a referral program that's working at a C plus B minus level and really supercharge it with technology. And so this is all about constantly communicating open roles, posting a note with the QR code in the break room, making it mobile optimized, all the things, right? And so we need to make it really easy for them to send referrals. That means it needs to be text-based or bot-based, and it needs to be mobile based. And we need to pay a reward bonus that's appropriate for the role that we're recruiting for. So, if you'd like to know more about that, let me know in chat. But, referral programs, I believe, are the biggest untapped, lowest hanging ROI for us to focus on as an industry. Now, we know job seekers leave no stones unturned in their search for what's right, but what does right mean? So it's easy for us to assume that job seekers are simply holding out for the highest paying option. And pay is important, but the reality is that job seeker expectations are much more nuanced than just pay, especially in this industry. So of course, pay matters. It always will. We have to pay fairly, but workers today are willing to take a job that pays a little less if the rest of their expectations are met. So let's take a look at what those expectations are. And we asked applicants in this study, what would they do when presented with two options in a similar pay range? Only 9% of respondents in the hospitality industry said they would always choose the higher paying option, which means 91% would be open to taking the lower paying offer if the right benefits were offered. This number is up from 84% in 2022. So last year, it felt like we were all trying to pay $1 more an hour to get that housekeeper or the night auditor, wherever we were recruiting. Last year, the strategy was let's just throw more money and keep up. This year, job seekers have clued into the fact that just because I get paid a little bit more doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy working there, right? So this number is up. So let's talk about which benefits job seekers prioritize over base pay. There are 4 at the top of the list. By and large, the most important consideration job seekers are giving is to schedule flexibility. It is the most important thing as a non-financial benefit you can offer. Can this employer work with me in the way I need to manage my life such that they work with me around what happens in life, doctor's appointments, school pickups and daycare drop-offs, sickness, vacations, all of those things. So number 1 is schedule flexibility. It's the most valuable perk that job seekers are looking for. Second, career growth. If I come to work for you, does this opportunity present more than just a paycheck in this current role? If I come to work for you, what do the next 12, 24, or 36 months look in terms of career growth opportunity, right? I'm looking for more than a job. So number 1 is schedule flexibility. Number 2 is career growth. And third is fulfilling work. Fulfilling work we'll talk more about, but essentially is, do I believe in the mission of the organization, and do I feel like I'm making a difference in a way that's important to me as an employee? And then fourth would be good workplace culture. Those are the 4 that top the list. In fact, what we find is workers are willing to trade up to 20% lower pay in exchange for all four of those things, right? So we don't have to keep shipping another dollar an hour and eroding our profitability to win here. We have to take some risk on as a management team and talk about flexibility, really promote career growth, talk about and understand why the work is fulfilling, and really focus on making it a place where they feel like they're supported. So more on all of that right now. So while benefits like schedule flexibility and career growth are fairly easy for employers to define and for job seekers to identify, culture is a little bit more murky. It's not always clear at face value what an employer's culture might look like. And from your perspective, it's not really obvious what job seekers are even looking for. So we asked respondents in an open-ended question to define good company culture. And I'll read a couple of these. Inclusive, kind and caring, open to accommodations, working on growth and reflection, care about its employees, supportive environment, enthusiastic leadership, a clear vision. Fosters a positive work environment that values and supports employees. So you see some common themes running through this response. It's about feeling like they're included. It's about feeling supported. It's about feeling that they're valued as an individual. And so these are things as we design the marketing of the jobs to really stand out. We want to talk about these things in our recruitment marketing and in our employment brand. So when analyzing all of the open-ended responses to this question about culture, here are the common themes. So in the words of the job seeker, good culture means to them, number one, well-defined core values. What do you stand for as an organization? And does that resonate with me? Second, feedback is given when appropriate. So you're not afraid, certainly you'll lavish the praise, but you're not afraid to give me constructive feedback in a way that's positive and constructive. I'm going to learn and grow here. Third, there are training opportunities for the roles and the ability to grow my career here. Fourth, the workforce is diverse, inclusive, and everyone's treated equitably. Then at number 5, we've got leadership transparency. So I feel like I understand why this organization runs itself the way that it does, and I know why decisions are being made at the highest level. And then finally, there is kindness and empathy that permeates the organization and the way we all treat one another as members of the team. And so here's the good news. Almost all of these characteristics are entirely possible for you to control. Define clear core values and prioritize hiring people who are a match for those values. Now at Hireology, we actually have a core value interview step in our hiring process where we interview a potential hire through the lens of our core values. And so we give someone an opportunity to ask the question of themselves, does this feel like a place that fits with my value system? Gives us as an employer the opportunity to ask the same question. And it's okay if there's not a fit. That's the whole point. We're trying to find that core values match. So it's also important to offer a feedback loop to employees and to work with managers on how to provide that feedback. Of course, training opportunities, career pathing, and a stated DEI strategy are all things that we know your job seeker wants to see as they're evaluating employment with you. And of course, always being open and honest with your team and leading with kindness is good policy, in my opinion. So, the golden rule is tried and true. And some of this might feel simple, but it's not easy to do, as you all know. I mean, as a whole, this is really what people are looking for in company culture. And I think where most management groups run into trouble with this is when leadership isn't aligned with these characteristics, and not only in the way they present opportunity, but in the way they manage. And so factors like empathy, inclusion, and transparency, they don't trickle down into the organization if your leadership team's not leading by example. So not only is it just subjectively a good way to run a business, but it also translates into better hiring and retention results. So this stuff really pays for itself, in addition to being the right thing to do. So when we ask job seekers where they go to determine whether or not your culture fits their expectation, 36% of hospitality respondents said they start with your website. Surprisingly, this ranked higher than third-party review sites like Glassdoor, which is the go-to starting point for about 27% of respondents. So 27% of people, they see your open opportunity, they go straight to Glassdoor and they read the reviews, which is why those reviews are so important to manage. The next thing they're doing, even more than that, is going to your website, and they're trying to get a sense of who you are. And so this shows just how much value people are putting into your own branded recruiting material when it comes to your employment branding. And so the first homework assignment I want to give you is at the conclusion of this call, I want you to go to your own website, click on the careers link, and go through it as if you're evaluating your own employer for the first time as a job seeker. Is the story that's being told the story you actually think you're telling or want to be telling? Because this individual who's going there is trusting you even over a third-party review site. So if you don't already have a career site that really tells the story of your company and illustrates your culture, and I would note the best way to do that is through video testimonials from existing happy employees, it's time to create one. I mean, that's really the first thing to do, is make sure your employment brand represents it in a way that you think it does or should do, right? Because this is the first place people go to figure out whether or not that culture's a fit. Now, as a society, we've become accustomed to convenience in all aspects of our lives. Anything from ordering food to booking flights to scheduling appointments can be done almost instantly and on any device. Meanwhile, we've got the whole category of job search, which, excuse me, theoretically should be no different, but job search is clunky right now. You know, most people expect applying to a job to be as easy as ordering a ride share, but we all know that's not exactly the experience we're delivering. You know, given the number of jobs they're applying to, it's so much easier to apply to lots of jobs now. But if the process is difficult, if you're not getting back to them quickly, and then if the process is difficult, they're just not going to complete the application if it's overly complicated. So let's dig a little deeper into some specific data here. More than 3 in 4, 76%, said they have given up on a job search or a job application because it took too long to complete. Similarly, 67% said they chose not to apply to a job where they were initially interested because the application required repeating information that was already on their resume, while 61% said the same thing about applications that required them to create an account with a username and password. So again, compare this to ordering food or an Uber, right? You can do that easily, click a few buttons and it happens. Why is applying for a job so much harder? Like, we're the one category of life experience that's so critical to life that is a lot harder than it needs to be. And it just shouldn't have to repeat information, you know, for sure shouldn't have to create a login to look at your open jobs or to apply, upload cover letters, all of that, right? That's yesterday. Today, we need to gather the bare minimum information up front and then weed out non-qualified candidates via screening and other tech tools. Then we get into the interview process. So we don't want to use a long application to do the weeding out for you, because frankly, because it will. People will just, they'll opt out of the process. 3/4 say they just quit because it took too long. So here's homework assignment number 2. What I want you to do, after you've reviewed your career site content for the message it's delivering, I want you to apply to a job at your own hotel or management group. And I want you to note the experience. So are you requiring people to create a username and login before they can apply to a job? If so, you are quite literally crippling your conversion rate, right? People are just not gonna opt into that at a level of scale that's gonna make you successful. Are you making people retype their job experience or their resume with their thumbs? I say that because, you know, the vast majority of people are doing their entire job and application process on their mobile device. If you find that either of those two things are true, please give us a call. There's some help we can give you. Audit your own process, audit the content, audit the application, and ask yourself, was this a pleasant experience? If not, there's work that can be done to make almost immediate impact to your recruiting results. Job seekers' expectations for ease really does not let up after they've completed the application. So in addition to expecting the application itself to be easy, 60% of respondents have admitted to ghosting an employer at some point during the hiring and interviewing process. So this number is up significantly from last year. Last year, 20% in our survey said they admitted to ghosting an interview. This year, it's 60%. It's also much higher than we saw in the other industries that were surveyed that rely on people in service industries. And so the average was a lot closer to 50% everywhere else. Again, in hospitality, we are the most prone to ghosting in this industry. And there's a reason for why they're ghosting. And here are the top 3 reasons. See if this resonates. Why are candidates ghosting so frequently in our industry? Well, the number one reason for ghosting is a slow moving hiring process. Remember, 67% accept the first offer, and they expect the first interview within 72 hours of application. The number one reason they're ghosting is because you didn't meet that expectation. Second, a lack of communication from you, the employer, and then the process, third, being too inconvenient to move forward with. So all 3 of these factors, again, can be tied back to ease and convenience. They want this process to be seamless, fast, and transparent. And you ask yourself, why does that matter? Well, it speaks to respect for them as an individual and a respect that their time is valuable. So again, if they feel like it's not to you, they have plenty of other options. They're going to go with options where they feel like their time is respected. And when it comes to lack of communication from the employer, I want to double click on this particular statistic. We followed up and asked, what exactly do you expect? You may be surprised to know that 36% of people in your recruiting pipeline want to hear from you every single day they're in the process. And a total of 67% or 2/3 want to hear from you at least every 2 days. So if you're not checking in with your candidates every day or two, and your process isn't moving quickly, your chances of being ghosted by your best candidates and losing them to a competitor are really very high. They're very, very high. So we've got to get back to them within 72 hours and have them interviewed. And then while they're going through the decision-making process, they want to be talked to every 1 or 2 days. That could be something as simple as a text message that says, hey, I wanted to keep you posted on where we're at. You can expect to hear from us by tomorrow with an update, that kind of stuff. If that feels daunting, it's because if you're trying to do this manually, it is daunting. You can't do this manually. You have to have systems that do this for you. There's my shameless plug for some ways we might be able to help you. Much like convenience, it should also go without saying, as I said earlier, that smartphones dominate our daily lives. I mean, it's obvious. They power everything, daily communications, to paying bills, to ordering what we need. And again, applying to a job and moving through the hiring process is no different for your job seeker. Like, they're not doing this one thing on their phone. They're doing everything on their phone. And this is especially true for most of the roles that we're hiring for here in this industry, where they're not at a desk, at a computer all day for the most part, sales office aside. Think about day-to-day lives of housekeepers or concierge or door staff, engineering. They're on their feet all day for long hours, right? So they need to be able to apply to communicate with you through the process and complete everything else easily without needing to sit down, open up a browser at a computer, log in and do stuff. It's just got to work best on a phone. In fact, when we asked what devices they used for the majority of their most recent search, 54% of respondents said the smartphone was what I used for the whole thing. This number has gone up every year for the last 10 years. But back in 2021, smartphone as the majority, as the platform of choice, was still in the minority. And we have absolutely this year reached the tipping point where it's the dominant channel, and it's only going to continue to increase. So only about a quarter of hospitality job seekers are using a desktop or laptop. Right? So it's mobile. It needs to be text-based, all the things. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But mobile is the platform we're optimizing for. 61% said they've actually given up on an application because it was too hard to complete on a mobile device. So when I referenced retyping their job experience with their thumbs, this is what I mean. And we've all had that experience. We're going through a website. We got to fill out this form. It's a 3-page scrolls long. Forget it. We're just not going to do it. So not only do they prefer mobile in the hiring process, most will actually drop out and just move on to the 11 plus other opportunities if it's too hard for them to proceed on their phones. So now let's talk about text versus email. While we all have access to email, most respondents, 60%, agreed they always check text messages before email. And about the same amount agreed that responding to text is easier than email. So not only do they prefer to use phones, they also prefer the mode of communication that is primarily on their phones to be SMS or text. And this makes all the sense in the world. So even though we have pretty good quality email apps available, I'll tell you, well in excess of 90% of the hotels I speak to before working with us identify email as the primary communication channel. Well, think about it for yourself. How many unread emails do you have in your personal inbox? I mean, I'm maybe ashamed to admit that my number is probably somewhere well in excess of 15,000 unread emails in my personal account. It's not a priority for me to keep up. Like I look at the ones that are most important, and everything else, they just kind of drop through. But what about your text messages? I mean, if you're like me, you read all of them, even the spammy ones, and you might block some, but you read them. Text messages get opened. In fact, well over 90% of all text messages to our platform to applicants are opened. And contrast that with email, where we get a number somewhere in the 40s. So you literally almost double your message review rate just moving from email to text. And it's a lot easier to do that than you think. Again, we'd love to talk to you about some ways you can make that move. Now that we've outlined everything in job seeker expectations throughout the application and hiring process, what happens when you get it all right? Right? Let's say you make a great hire because your process was easy. The job you offered met their needs. They connected with the culture. You got it all right. Now what? Well, for most employers in the hotel space, the reward is loyalty, which ultimately means you prevent turnover, which means you're providing better guest experience because you have more tenured staff. You're selling more rooms. You're selling more service and food. You're adding to the bottom line. Happy days, right? In fact, 70% of hospitality and hotel workers say they're loyal to their current employer. 70%. That might surprise you. But in our survey, 70% said absolutely. And here are the top reasons for loyalty. Not unsurprisingly, it's the things they're looking for in a job on the front end: flexibility, fulfilling work, and career growth. And so, I call this the keeping your promises section of the presentation. We're selling these things on the front end if we're actually delivering them. Nearly two-thirds of our team will be loyal to us, right? So we lament at every convention we all go to about retention issues in our industry. Retention starts with hiring process. If you do these things well, if you organize your management in HR and hiring process around these things in speed to response, you will have a much higher chance of delivering those as an organization because you've made the choice, you've set the intention to make these things a priority. And when we do that, what we find is that we have a much more loyal member of our staff. And then the final major factor influencing loyalty is the onboarding process. How well you welcome someone into the organization and integrate a new employee into the team, it absolutely makes or breaks your long-term relationship with them. In fact, 77% of respondents who reported a positive onboarding experience said they're loyal to their current employer. 49% who said they had a negative onboarding experience answered yes to that question. All right. So you are far better off with the strategy I refer to as just make their first day great. Make day one great. If we are rolling out the red carpet with an organized onboarding experience, we're winning. If we are making them fill out onboarding forms, tax and I-9 in a break room with paper on day one, that's hard. If we're making it easier to do all this stuff before they show up on day one on a mobile device, that's the right way to do it. So we want to really make onboarding seamless. And that's everything from pre-hire employment documents all the way through to training and first day welcome experience. And this loyalty extends even after they leave your organization. 70% of respondents in the survey said they would come back and work for you if these experiences were there and positive. And so this speaks not only to creating a culture where people really appreciate and are willing to return to, but also to maintaining relationships with employees even after they leave your organization. And so, everyone thinks the grass is greener, and then they realize, no, you actually ran that place pretty well. It was a great place to work. They will come back, but it means you've got to have your hiring process be more than just a static database of previous talent that's applied. You've got to work your database in a programmatic way to nurture relationships so that when it's time to hire, busy season's coming up, we can reach in and pull people in who may have worked for us or applied for us in the past. We're not starting from scratch with a fresh job posting every single time. So I want to make sure I leave some time for questions if we have any. And so I want to summarize our 6 main takeaways here. Today's hospitality job industry seekers are, number one, eager to get to work, right? We are well beyond people want to stay home. People want to work. They're looking everywhere. And in fact, they're looking at, at least 11 other employers in addition to you. So we've got to stand out. They're looking for ease. They value more than pay, and they want to do it on a mobile device. And if we're able to meet them where they are and provide a hiring experience and a job experience and an onboarding experience that meets their needs, our retention rates could nearly double in this space. We can cut turnover in half if we get all these things right. And so sometimes I know this feels like a boil the ocean problem. I think it really boils down to 3 things. So while I did offer some advice throughout this presentation, I want to give you some really clear takeaways here. Most of what you should do in response to everything we covered can be summarized into 3 categories: speed, quality, and intelligence. So let's start with speed. We know from the data that hospitality job seekers want to get hired fast. So optimize your process so that you can not only capture the best job seekers the moment they apply, but also quickly move through a vetting and selection process, which means you got to get to interview within 72 hours. That means exploring mandates internally with your hiring managers for response times, in embracing tools that allow you to automate manual work and more efficiently communicate with candidates to keep that process going. They want to be talked to every 1 to 2 days. They want to be interviewed in 3 days. They want to move really quickly. If you're doing this with spreadsheets and email or a system that doesn't support that speed, this is the biggest immediate payoff for improving hiring results. Now, quality, of course, 10 quality candidates is better than 100 poor quality candidates. I mean, that's obvious. We want to aim for quality over quantity first by building jobs and marketing them in a way that the top talent actually wants. So the best of the best have, as we've discussed, dozens of options for work. So what we need to do is build a job. Think of it like product. We want to market a product that they want to buy. That product is flexibility, culture, and career growth, right? So we want to reach quality candidates by also diversifying sourcing. So we're not just relying on job boards. We've got to have our career site game best ever. We've got to have our referral program on a scalable platform. We've got to do all of these, right? So reimagine your employee referral program, reimagine a content-rich career site, combined with the presence on leading job boards. It's going to get you everywhere that you need to be. And then finally, much of the quality and speed related tactics that we've discussed are really hard without a baseline knowledge of what's working and what isn't. And so track key metrics in your hiring process, such as sourcing efficiency. So which channels are driving the most hires, not just the most applicants, but which channels actually convert. Process adherence, which is a term we use. How fast is your team able to hit these milestones in the hiring process? And then from there, we can identify bottlenecks and opportunities for improvement. We adjust efforts accordingly. So if you've got multiple properties in your group, Do you have the ability to look at the group level and say, all right, of the 15 properties I've got in my portfolio, who needs attention from us at the central office with some hiring help? This hotel over here looks like they're responding quickly and they're moving people through. I got this property over here. Boy, they're really stuck. They're not getting back to people for 5 to 7 days on average. No wonder they're understaffed. This is where we need to spend time. And so once you unlock that level of intelligence, you can provide help to properties in the right way in real time. And it just helps you win at a much higher rate. And so in a recruiting market where it is quite literally a zero-sum game, I win, you lose, we have to be first, we have to be fast, we have to have the best offer in terms of flexibility, career path, and culture. We don't have to have the most pay. We have to have fair pay and excel on the intangibles. And so easier said than done, I know, but the right partner can make that so much easier. So that's what I've got for you today. There's an email address on this slide if you want to contact our team for more information or to learn more about the hiring and HR platform that we built just for this industry. And so thank you very much. With that, I'll take a quick peek at our chat. Katie, is there anything you weren't able to address inside of the chat window during the presentation?
No, there wasn't. The only question that we had was if we would be sending out the slides, which we will along with the recording. So you can expect that in your inbox on Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want a copy of the applicant research study, copy of these slides, you want a therapy session and talk about this stuff in a little deeper detail, contact us here and we'll get you what you need. So on behalf of the team here at Hireology, I want to say thanks for joining us. We look forward to talking with you soon. Good luck out there, and we'll talk real soon.